Hello and welcome to one of the biggest boxes I've ever unboxed. If you couldn't tell from the sticker there, this is the Gormenghast Trilogy. Spoiler alert, it's apparently number 396. This, my friends, is a limited edition from Folio Society. I haven't purchased any limited editions from the Folio Society since Mort, Terry Pratchett book. And I actually don't have that one anymore, so I can't say that I have any Folio Society limited editions apart from this one. So here we have the Gormenghast Trilogy. Huge box, barely fits into frame. Let's take a look. So first of all, I love the packaging. We got a box, and within the box we have these kind of cardboard protectors, kind of L-shaped Tetris blocks, keeping the book in place. Okay. We got little side cardboard, and then we have the book itself. Books, I should say. Let's get the box out of the way. So here we have, once again, number 396. So this is the trilogy by Mervyn Peake. It is introduced by Neil Gaiman. It is illustrated by Dave McKean. A wonderful combo to begin with. I can't wait to see what they do with the text. I'm currently in the process. Whoa! Look at that. So nice. My hands are very clean. I just washed them. I'm currently in the process of reading Titus Grown, the first title in the trilogy. I've never read the full trilogy, so I'm about 2/3 of the way through Titus Grown, the first title. You have a nice little magnetic clasp there. You can hear that. Hear that, magnets. Nice kind of red foil. And this maze all the way around. Illustrated by Dave McKean. And you can tell the actual pieces of the maze are buildings. So there's a great video that Dave McKean, of Dave McKean doing the art and talking about the art. It's very fascinating. I believe it's on the Folio Society's YouTube page. Anyways, let's dive in. So magnetic clasp. Woo! All right, let's move this over. Inside, printed on the inside of the clamshell? Is this considered a clamshell? I mean, it's like a huge enclosure. First up, nice little piece of paper. The Gormenghast Trilogy. Every set in the Folio Society limited edition of the Gormenghast Trilogy has been carefully crafted at Graphicom in Vicenza, Italy. So yes, this is coming from Italy. To produce a truly visionary edition of Mervyn Peake's masterpiece, The Fantastic. Each volume of the trilogy is gathered in open spine binding, which we can kind of see here. The overall design is intended to create the publication, which can be found on the shelves of the sprawling library of Gormenghast itself. Nice little note. Now I have seen, so I'm if you couldn't tell by my accent, here in the States. If your Folio Society is in the UK, I don't want to damage these. Let's see. How do I get these out nice and safely? So people in the UK and some people in the States have already received their copies. I really don't want to damage these. Come on, buddy. There we go. There's like a little lip there. So I don't want to like yank them up, but they're all wrapped together to start with. We're going to say goodbye to the boxer right now. It shall return. Oh, listen to that magnet enclosure. All three of these are wrapped together, so that's why I'm trying to be very careful with it, very delicate with it. So a lot of people have received this already, their copies. There have been some damaged copies out and about, which is unfortunate. So fingers crossed that we are lucky here. Okay, so, wow. All right. So we have the nice little paper, kind of keeping them apart. Almost like butcher paper. We're gonna put this one on the side for now. That's Titus alone. That's Gormenghast. And here, my friends, is our first title. We're gonna start with number 1 because that's the logical place to start. Titus Grown. So Titus. If you're not familiar with Gormenghast, Gormenghast is the name of a castle. It's like a city within a castle. Not too many inhabitants though, and each of the inhabitants is kind of, oh yes, we have an art print. We'll look at that shortly. Each of the inhabitants is kind of in their own duties. Okay, don't really see any excess glue that some people were seeing on their page edges, which is nice. It's an open spine binding featuring the name of the book, Titus Grown. Very nice. The open spine binding I will demonstrate in a second, but you might be familiar with it from Suntup's numbered edition of Blood Meridian or their lettered edition of The Road. I've unboxed the numbered edition of Blood Meridian on this channel, if you're not familiar with it, featuring Dave McKean's artwork on each side. Oh, is that a defect or part of the art? I don't know. Anyways, Gormenghast, as I was saying, is a castle the size of a city. The Earl, oh, there we go. Dave McKean and Neil Gaiman signatures right there. Number 396. The Earl of Gormenghast at the start of Titus Grown is Supplecrave, and it features the gorgeous artwork from Dave McKean throughout. First printing here, my friends, is Neil Gaiman's introduction. It begins with the birth of Titus Grown, the 77th Earl, who will become the 77th Earl of Gormenghast. And it features plenty and plenty of Dave McKean illustrations throughout. I apologize, the camera's much higher than it normally is because of how massive this book is. So I'll try to cover it as best I can. Very decent spacing on the margins throughout. Just little illustrations throughout from Dave McKean. Look at that. So, two major things going on in this first title. The first is the birth of Titus, the 77th Earl. The second is the rising of Steerpike, who is just manipulative as hell in his quest for power. Starts as a little kitchen boy, starts kind of working behind the scenes to get into a higher realm of power. And one of the nice things about the open binding, as I'm kind of showing you here, is that this book is laying completely flat. Oh, the burning. It's kind of a spoiler there, so I want to move on. That's a tragedy. Sour Dust. Rest in peace, Sour Dust. This is Sepulcrave illustrated there. I apologize, I'm a little quiet right now. I'm just kind of taking it all in. This is about where I am, actually, in the novel. I'm back with the twins here, his twin sisters. But it's got illustrations throughout. 142 illustrations from Dave McKean, which, I mean, across 3 volumes, that's like 50 illustrations a book. That's crazy. Flay, another major character. Lots of characters throughout. The sister, Titus' sister Fuchsia, and so on. Just characters abundant. It's a very strange book. I'm not going to lie. It's very strange. I was kind of expecting when they said, oh, it's fantasy. You know, don't expect sword and sorcery. Don't expect any magic, high fantasy, anything like that. It's very much gothic fantasy. It almost reminds me, in a way, of Blackwater. So Blackwater by Michael McDowell, which is not fantasy at all. I actually did some unboxings of that on my channel from Suntup. Is very much Southern Gothic, and it almost kind of reads like a soap opera. This doesn't read like a soap opera, because Mervyn Peake has a very distinct writing style from what I've read so far in book 1, but it very much is Gothic, and it's getting in the Gothic in the whole Byron sense, and it's getting in the nitty-gritty of the affairs within Gormenghast. Not affairs, isn't who's sleeping with who, but, you know, the comings and goings. So that is Titus Grown, book number 1. We're going to put that on the side for right now. We're going to look to book 2. Book 2 being Gormenghast. So the first title, which is the only one that I'm in the process of reading, starts with the birth of Titus Grown and it kind of carries on into his first year. So he's a baby. The title character's a baby the entire time. He's not doing much. He's crying and sleeping. The second book, which I will read next, deals with Titus from early childhood into Titus growing up. And the third book, my understanding, deals with Titus exploring outside the walls of Gormenghast. So, once again, nice margin size. Once again, illustrations abundant. Illustrations aplenty. Courtesy of Dave McKean. Look at that. That is gorgeous. Very excited to dive into this. I don't think I'll be reading this copy in particular. It's much too scared to read a copy such as this. But it is a work of art. I am loving the open binding. I know a lot of people are kind of critical of that. They're like, I don't know how I feel about an open binding. But it looks stunning. Don't know what's going on there. Like, it's just details throughout. This is just printed offset. This is nothing fancy. No letterpress printing here. I'm fine with that because that would have driven the price even higher up within this. Very curious that this one seems to actually have chapters. See, 62. I mean, the other one has chapters too, but the other ones have like names for all the chapters. Like the twins are back. Oh, got a little glue keeping the pages together there. Very, very beautiful. And that is title number 2, Gormenghast. And then finally, we have Titus Alone. So you have Titus Grown, and then Titus Alone, which, as I said, I mean, you got kind of loose, what looks like loose strands, but that is just, tying the signatures, aka the little page bundles together. The shortest volume of the 3, my understanding is Titus Alone deals with Titus exploring outside the walls of Gormenghast, which seems to be kind of confirmed here. You got like little woods. So Mervyn Peake was an author and an illustrator. He had images in mind when he was creating this trilogy. Very interesting detail. The numbers for the chapters are now numbers. The previous book, if you recall 2 minutes ago, were written out. So, 22 was actually spelled 22. Probably shouldn't show that image. Let's go to this little llama thing instead. So that's interesting. I wonder if that's a design choice or what's the deal with that. If you've read Titus Alone, perhaps you can enlighten me. So Mervyn Peake, I believe he had more to say about Titus and Gormenghast, but he passed away before all that could be said was said, which is very sad. But what was left in his place was this trilogy of just gothic intrigue. Like I said, gothic in the Byron sense. They're not blasting the Cure. Titus Alone. I gotta say, I think my copies held up very nicely. None of them have any glue residue on the page edges. They're bound in black, they're stained in black. None of them, one's got a little mark on the back, but nothing too crazy. And then we have a silver foiled envelope here, in which is an art print by Dave McKean. Who would have thought 142 illustrations? The art print would also be by Dave McKean. Very nice. Very, very nice. Presumably that is Titus all grown up. But as I said, I have only known him as a baby, so I cannot say for certain. Anyways, let's go ahead and bring our good old latch box back. There we go. We're going to put these back in. And they are stunning. It's Titus Grown right off the front. Very careful, very gentle with this. Put the little paper in between it. What do we got next? Do I have one too many? Maybe this should be going in front of it. As I make a fool of myself putting my books back in the box. But you know what? If you're watching this long, I appreciate it. Thank you for the moral support. We're going to get through this together. Gormenghast, book number 2. Gotta protect those little pages there. Put a little more paper there for Titus Alone, book number 3. Don't want any rubbing on the cloth. That didn't work as well as I thought it was going to. There we go. And finally, the art print, which we're just going to kind of insert there on the side. That, my friends, is the Gormenghast Trilogy from the Folio Society. That is beautiful. Quite a work of art. Like I said, it's very reminiscent of Blood Meridian, the numbered edition from Suntop Editions. That one was bound in leather. These are bound in cloth, but I love the open spine binding. Love the packaging. I'm always a big fan of a nice little metal lid like that. Not that the lid's metal, but it's magnetized. Get in here. Hear that? Hear that clasp? Once more for good effect. Look at that. So this is over 2/3 sold out from Folio Society. It is on the pricier side. Not as pricey as their Lord of the Rings trilogy was, but you got to remember, it's 3 books. It's not just 1 book, it's 3 books. 2/3 of the way sold out, but it is still available. And hopefully you'll be lucky like me and get a pristine copy. If not, I know Folio Society is very good with their customer service and getting damaged copies replaced. If you've watched the video this long, thank you very much. Please consider liking and subscribing. And wow, what a gorgeous edition. Thank you for watching, and thank you to Folio Society for this beautiful edition, and we will see you around next time.